This episode of the AI Daily Deep Dive podcast was researched by the AI model Gemini 2.5 Pro Deep Research and is fully AI generated. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a close look at a document that could really shape the future of artificial intelligence in America. It's the new U.S. AI Action Plan. Our goal in this deep dive is, well, to unpack its core philosophy, explore the specific policies, look at the very different reactions it's getting, and think about what it all means. It really feels like a pretty pivotal moment.
You're absolutely right. This plan, it's much more than just a list of policies. It feels like a foundational document, really, for national strategy. And it's built on this really urgent idea that the U.S. is basically locked in a zero-sum race for global AI dominance, mainly against China. This whole competitive frame, this race idea, it's absolutely central to how the entire plan is justified.
Yeah, that framing is right there, isn't it? Even in the title. Winning the AI race, America's AI Action Plan. The language used, it presents the whole thing as a contest with a single victor. Mm-hmm. We've heard officials say things like, winning the AI race is non-negotiable for American prosperity and security. President Trump himself said America's going to win it, aiming for unquestioned and unchallenged global technological dominance.
That's presented as a core national security thing.
And when you hear language like that, it's more than just political talk. It's actually a powerful strategic narrative tool. By pushing this sense of, national urgency and almost existential competition, the administration creates a reason for some really radical policy shifts. It sort of paves the way for actions like aggressively slashing regulations, tearing down what they call obsolete systems, and even sidestepping environmental protections to fast-track infrastructure. So the race isn't just about geopolitics. It's really a story designed to push these pre-existing goals of deregulation and, market fundamentalism.
Okay, and that brings us to something really interesting. How this plan marked a complete, philosophical break from the Biden administration before it. Literally, on day one, President Trump revoked Biden's executive order 42110. Now, that order, remember, was called Safe, Secure, and Trustworthy Development and Use of Artificial Intelligence. It really tried to balance innovation with managing risks, focusing on AI safety, security, protecting civil rights.
A very different focus, yeah.
Exactly. So what's the alternative philosophy we're seeing now?
Well, instead of that kind of balanced approach, this Trump plan really embraces a philosophy you could almost call accelerationism. It systematically takes apart that previous structure of caution. Regulatory guardrails. They're not seen as essential safeguards anymore. Now they're framed as onerous burdens that smother in bureaucracy and supposedly stop the nation from winning this race. The Council on Foreign Relations, for instance, pointed out that under this new plan, innovation and economic growth are clearly being promoted at the expense of risk mitigation. It's not subtle. It's a total reversal of the governing philosophy on AI.
So how does this new philosophy actually translate into action? The America's AI Action Plan is built around three main pillars. These are accelerating innovation, building American AI infrastructure, and leading in international diplomacy and security. And together, these pillars lay out over 90 federal policy actions, all really geared towards cementing U.S. dominance in AI. Let's dig into that first pillar, accelerating innovation through unfettered development. The real cornerstone here is what they're calling aggressive deregulation. The plan basically orders a government-wide effort led by the OMB, that's the Office of Management and Budget, to find and essentially get rid of any regulations or policies seen as hindering AI development. President Trump himself specifically talked about needing to blast through thickets of regulation to let the AI industry, thrive.
And what's really impactful here, I think, is the strategy of soft preemption of state law. See, the administration knows a federal ban on state AI laws probably wouldn't pass Congress, so instead they used the power of the purse. The plan explicitly says federal funding should not be directed towards states with burdensome AI regulations. Right. That's a huge financial incentive, right, for states to just abandon their own consumer protection, privacy, civil rights laws related to AI. The goal seems to be achieving a single federal standard without actually needing a formal preemption law. It's quite clever in a way.
This pillar also drags some pretty contentious cultural debates right into tech policy. It mandates unbiased and pro-free speech AI. It tells federal agencies they can only contract with large language model developers if they ensure their systems are objective and free from top-down ideological bias. And this is backed up by a specific executive order called Preventing Woke AI in the Federal Government. Plus, there's a direct order to NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, to revise its AI risk management framework, the AIM, to eliminate references to misinformation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, in climate change.
Yeah, it's a very direct intervention. But it's also interesting that this pillar does include a strong federal endorsement of open source and open weight AI models. These are the models anyone can download and modify. And this part actually has support from a wider range of tech experts. They're seen as pretty essential for fostering innovation beyond just the few giant tech companies, and also for competing with China, which uses open models too. The thinking is it prevents monopolies and helps smaller players get access.
Okay, right. Let's move on to Pillar 2 then. Building the engine of AI infrastructure and energy. This part acknowledges that AI dominance isn't just algorithms. It's about the massive physical stuff needed to build and run them. Semiconductors, data centers, huge amounts of power. A core policy here is streamlining permits for data centers and chip factories.
Yeah.
There's even a specific executive order accelerating federal permitting of data center infrastructure just for this. And this includes creating these broad categorical exclusions for AI-related construction from major environmental laws like the Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act.
Basically fast-tracking things by bypassing some environmental reviews. And the plan definitely isn't shy about using federal resources. It mandates the use of federal lands and resources. It tells all federal agencies with lots of land to identify sites and make them available for data centers and the power plants needed. It even prioritizes contaminated brownfield and Superfund sites for this redevelopment. So, repurposing polluted land for AI infrastructure.
And to meet what they're calling the colossal energy demands of AI, the plan outlines a very clear pro-fossil fuel energy strategy. It calls for federal action to stop the premature decommissioning of critical power plants, specifically mentioning natural gas turbines and coal power equipment. And this focus comes right as the administration is moving to end tax credits and incentives for renewables like wind and solar.
Right, a clear signal about energy priorities. Now, moving to Pillar 3, this one focuses on projecting power, translating America's domestic AI strength into global influence and military might. A really novel part here is the strategy of exporting the American AI stack. The Commerce and State Departments are told to partner with industry to create and deliver these secure, full-stack AI export packages. We're talking hardware, model, software, application standards, the whole kit packaged up for allies. The stated goal is to meet global demand with U.S. tech, stop others relying on rivals, and make sure the world continues to run on American technology. It's ambitious.
And that export strategy ties directly into the broader effort to counter China in global governance, right? Specifically challenging China's influence in international standards bodies.
Exactly. It's about setting the global rules of the game. And finally, this pillar mandates the aggressive adoption of AI within the U.S. military. The goal is maintaining global military preeminence. Specific actions include setting up a new AI and autonomous systems virtual proving ground, led by the DoD. The plan also tells the Pentagon to lock in agreements with private cloud companies to guarantee the military gets priority access to computing power during emergencies. That really deepens the integration of private tech into national security.
Okay, so with such sweeping, really significant changes, how did people react to America's AI action plan? Definitely didn't create a national consensus. Far from it. The response seems deeply fractured, polarized even.
Absolutely. On one side, you had widespread praise from the tech and business sectors. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang called it transformational, saying it would accelerate AI innovation in America. Michael Dell said his company was all in. Aaron Livy from Box called it quite strong for removing roadblocks. Companies like Palantir, Elon Musk's xAI, industry groups like NetChoice, the National Association of Manufacturers, they all praised it, saw it as a turbo boost for American innovation.
But then, on the complete other side, we saw really profound alarm from civil liberties groups, environmental organizations, and AI safety advocates. The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, put out a scathing response. They called the plan a dangerous step backward for protecting civil rights and civil liberties.
Wow.
The ACLU argued it pushes a political agenda at the expense of everyone's right to robust protection from biased and erroneous AI tools, and warned it would hit communities already at risk the hardest.
Yeah, and critics really honed in on concerns like digital redlining algorithms, unfairly denying services based on location or demographics biased surveillance potential, and that attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion within the NIST framework. AI safety experts also raised red flags, warning the aggressive push for innovation without enough focus on risk mitigation could open an AI Pandora's box. Especially the strong push for open source models without matching investment in safety protocols. That was seen as particularly risky, potentially making it easier for bad actors to create deepfakes, cyber weapons, maybe even bioweapons.
And what about internationally? How did other countries react?
Well, the international community seemed cautious, maybe concerned. While allies definitely share the goal of countering China's tech ambitions, the plan's really aggressive unilateralist language wasn't seen as helpful. There were worries that dismissing multilateral efforts like the G7 Code of Conduct could alienate allies instead of building strong coalitions. It risked looking like the U.S. going it alone. So this huge split in reactions, it really highlights a fundamental conflict of interests and values, doesn't it? The plan clearly picks aside the industry side, framing regulation as just this onerous burden that needs removing. It sort of writes that conflict right into America's AI strategy.
Okay, let's widen the lens a bit then. How does this plan look when you place it in the global context? Compare it to other big AI governance approaches out there.
Well, it definitely stands out as an outlier compared to the Biden administration's approach. This plan is a direct rejection of that more balanced, risk-focused, civil rights-aware strategy. It replaces it with winning the AI race above all else. Compared to the European Union, the gap is even wider philosophically. The EU AI Act is this comprehensive, legally binding framework based on protecting fundamental rights. The Trump plan sees that kind of regulation as, well, the enemy of progress.
Right.
And compared to China, both are competitive, obviously, but China's strategy is very state-led, top-down, serving Communist Party goals. Trump's plan is different. It relies on, quote, unleashing the American private sector in a very market-driven way.
Given all that, and the concerns raised, some people have asked, is this a blueprint for dystopia? That's a strong word, but is it justified?
Well, critics definitely warn about the cumulative risks. They talk about the synergistic effects, how accelerating risky tech while also dismantling safeguards can reinforce each other negatively. First, there's the potential erosion of rights, that regulatory vacuum created by sidelining state laws and removing fairness DEI checks.
Yeah.
It could easily lead to more algorithmic discrimination, digital redlining, unchecked surveillance. Second, the environmental sacrifice. Granting blanket exemptions from environmental laws could create these sacrifice zones, lock the country into more fossil fuels, maybe leading to higher energy bills for everyone.
Right, the energy demands have to be met somehow.
Exactly. Third, that Pandora's box idea with unchecked AI. The risk of open source models without safety. Mass deepfakes, new cyber weapons, maybe even AI helping design chemical or biological agents. It's a serious concern.
And the military aspect.
Yeah, finally, in the military domain, aggressively adopting AI, especially combined with hostility to oversight, could speed up the development of lethal autonomous weapons law. That increases the risk of accidents, unintended escalation, things happening without meaningful human control.
It's also crucial, I think, to connect this AI action plan to the broader Project 2025 initiative.
Absolutely.
This AI plan really serves as a clear case study, maybe even an early implementation vehicle for that larger conservative agenda. You see how it aligns with Project 2025's goals. Expanding executive power, dismantling the administrative state, that federal bureaucracy fighting culture wars over things like woke AI and DEI, and potentially enabling more surveillance.
That's a key point. It helps us see the AI action plan isn't just some standalone tech policy. It's actually a key front in a much bigger political project aiming to reshape American government and society. The dystopian potential critics worry about comes from that synergy, pushing powerful, risky tech forward really fast while simultaneously taking down the legal, ethical, and regulatory guardrails needed to manage it.
So, bringing it all together, what does this actually mean for you listening? Let's break down who really stands to gain from this plan and who might face the negative consequences.
Okay. The primary beneficiaries seem pretty clear. Large tech corporations, venture capital firms, think NVIDIA, Dell, Amazon, Google, Palantir, XAI. They stand to gain massively from deregulation and potential contracts. Also, the energy sector, particularly fossil fuels and nuclear, benefits from the energy strategy. Defense contractors and the military-industrial complex gain from increased military AI spending. And of course, states with minimal regulations that attract that federal funding.
And on the flip side, who faces potential negative impacts?
Well, marginalized and minority communities are definitely highlighted by critics as being at risk from algorithmic discrimination, digital redlining, potentially biased policing. Also, residents in communities targeted for all that new infrastructure build out the data centers, the power plants. They might face more pollution, maybe higher utility costs. States that do have strong consumer and civil rights protections could be effectively punished by losing federal funds. And workers in sectors vulnerable to automation might face job displacement with fewer social safety nets planned.
So, to wrap things up, winning the AI race. America's AI action plan really feels like a high-stakes gamble ideologically and geopolitically. It clearly prioritizes achieving technological supremacy, often through aggressive deregulation, over-addressing some pretty profound potential risks.
You know, this plan really throws two fundamentally different visions of the future into sharp relief, and they seem pretty irreconcilable. One vision, the one this plan champions, puts national power and rapid technological progress first. In this view, regulations, environmental concerns, ethics, there may be luxuries or even obstacles. The alternative vision argues that tech advancement must be tied to democratic values, fundamental rights, public safety, environmental stewardship. You can't separate them.
And the Trump AI action plan has made its choice between those two visions unequivocally clear, hasn't it? Dominance first. The consequences, well, they're left to be dealt with later, if at all. So as we finish, a final thought for you. What really stands out to you about this approach? And how do you envision progress for humanity in this age of AI? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.